Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how you can create pivot tables in Microsoft Excel to do some amazing analysis. Without wasting further time, let's jump into that. I'm going to open Microsoft Excel. The version I'm using here is 13, but you can have Excel 19, 16 or the latest version of Excel to do this pivot table analysis. I'm going to use an example of a used car dealer. I have a spreadsheet called car inventory. I'm going to go ahead and open that. And first of all, I'll give you introduction to the data that I have in this spreadsheet. So what I have here is, this is my car inventory that I have here. As you can see, I have 25 vehicles or cars, and it's a mixture of different makes. I have Hondas, I have Toyotas, I have Nissans, Fords, and so on. And then I have many different models, Accord, Camry, and all this. Then I have a variety of colors of these vehicles, red, blue, silver, green, and more. Then I have a different mileage amounts. So some of the cars have a little bit higher mileage and some of them have a lower mileage. Then I have various price points. This is what I believe I can charge for the vehicle, so I have listed them here. And then lastly, this is what I paid for the vehicle. So now you can see what my margin is here. I'm going to quickly calculate here. I'll earn $1,000 on this car if I get $4,000 because I have only paid $3,000 for this car. So this is my data here, and now what I want to do is I want to do a whole bunch of analysis. I want to figure out what is the total profit margin across these cars, and I want to know how many red cars I have or how many Hondas do I have. I have all these questions about my data and I want to analyze it. Now what I could do, I could write a whole bunch of formulas to figure out what my margin on these vehicles are, like this. I can write a quick formula, but this will take a lot of time if I have a bigger data. Pivot table simplify analysis and really make analysis a lot faster and easier. I use pivot table all the time and it helps me to analyze data much more quicker. So today I want to show you how I do that. So we are going to do that here. We are going to go up here on the top bar and click on insert, and you will notice this option called pivot table. Before I click on that, I want to show you another option. There's an option called recommended pivot tables. So if I click on recommended pivot tables, this is Excel recommended different pivot table based on my data. So here they have bunch of things like I could do sum of cost by make, count of mileage by color of the car, sum of cost by the color, sum of mileage and sum of price by the make of the car. So this way you can use something which is already there based on your data. But today I want to show how you can create your own pivot table from scratch. So what I will do now is, let's click on the pivot table button. Default setting is it select this table of data that I have is already pre-selected it. I could also change the selection if I want to, but Excel has done a good job of picking it. And here either I could choose I want a new worksheet or I want to put it on the existing worksheet. So I'm going to create a new worksheet with this data and I don't want to change anything here. Typically, when I get there, I simply click OK. This is the main pivot table view. You have a bunch of different controls on the right hand side. You have other thing that says build a report on the left side. So let's walk through how to do this. So you have a few different options here. You have filters. This is if you want to filter your data by any one of these fields. These fields has been picked from the original data which we have. You have your rows going down the sheet, and then you have the columns which are going across the sheet, and then we have these values associated to this. Let's use our example data and then you could see how it works. I want to know how many cars I have by the make and by the model and then by the color. It would be just to get a sense of what my inventory is. So the first thing I could do is I could click on these different items here and I could drag it into these different boxes down below. So I'm going to take make and I'm going to drop it into these rows columns. And here I get a quick view of all the make that I have on my lot. So I have Ford, Honda, Kia, Nissan, Toyota, Volkswagen. Now I could also click on the model and drop it down here. Now I could see the make and each of the model under that make, and I could expand and collapse these different sections. I can also collapse all the fields, or I could expand all the fields by using these buttons here. I'm going to drag the color over to the columns. So now here you can see that we have our table of the makes, the model and the color. And now I want to get a count. So now I'm going to take makes and pull it into values here. So now what this has done is it set it to the count, and now I can see count by vehicle. So here once again I'm going to collapse it. So here you can see that for Ford I have 3 blacks, 1 red and 1 silver vehicle for the total of 5 vehicles. And for Honda I have 2 blue, 1 red, 1 silver, 1 white and total is 5 again. Now I will expand it again. I could see that by different model what color I have. So this is a very quick way to visualize my data without having to go through the spreadsheet and filter or either enter different formulas to get this data. With this pivot table, I can just do that automatically. Now let's say that I want to know what my profit margin is on my different vehicles. So now I'm going to move this model out and I'm going to move the make out from these values. I'm going to move color out. Now I want to know my margin by make and what profit margin is. And we all know that profit margin is price minus the cost. So I'm going to pull the price into the values. Here you see this is basically what I expect to get if I want to sell all these models. I'm going to pull the make into the values again. So here you see that I have my 5 Fords and I believe I could sell them for this amount, which is $17,908. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to pull the cost in the values at the end. So here you can see I expect to be able to pull in about $17,900, and to buy all these vehicles I had to pay $15,150. So what I could do now, if I want to figure out the margin, I'm going to click on this thing that says field item and sets in this calculation ribbon. I will insert a calculated field. A calculated field is it's basically doing a formula on different columns in the pivot table. So I'm going to click on the calculated field and then I'm going to call it profit margin. And for the formula, I'm going to insert the price and then subtract cost. And I'm going to add this by pressing this add button. What you will see is it just added this as a field to my pivot table. So I'm going to click on OK by pressing this OK button. And now it's automatically added this to my table. So now you can see that I have 5 Fords. I believe I could collect this. And this is my cost. And then here is my margin. The good thing here is I could see what make has the biggest margin. I could do that by looking through all these figures and figure it out, or I can right click any value of some of this profit column, go to sort, and I could go from largest to smallest. So here I can see my 5 Honda's vehicles and I expect to make $3,468. So this is my biggest margin that I have. Now let's say that I want to know the average cost of my vehicles. I'm going to pull some of these values out. I'm going to get rid of the make, the price, and get rid of this profit margin from the values. So let's say of these different cars like Ford, Honda, Kia, Nissan, and all others, what was the average price that I paid when I bought these vehicles? Here in this values box, so you can see that this is currently set to the sum of the cost. What I could do is if I click on this triangle here and then value fields settings, I have all these different options here. So instead of the sum, I could choose an average and I'm going to click on OK. And now this changes it to the average. Now one thing I'm going to do just make it easier to read is let's add a $sign in by going to Home, Numbers, Currency, Dollar. So here what this is saying is for my Fords, I paid an average of $3,030 for each vehicle. And for my Hondas, I have paid $2,500. And you can see on average how much I have paid per vehicle. So once again, what I do here is I go to the value field setting and I could change it to sum, count, maximum, minimum, different options here in the list. Okay, now the next thing that I want to do is to know what percentage I have of each color of the car. I want to know what percentage of my cars are red versus black or silver. So what I'm going to do is Let's go back here, remove make from the row field and average cost from the value field. I'm going to drop color in the row field and again color in the value field. Going to get rid of these dollar signs from this table. So what you can see is I have 6 black cars, I have 6 silver and red cars, and now I'm going to sort from largest to smallest. So here you can see I have 6 black, 6 red, 6 silver, and then 3 white, 3 blue, and 1 green. Let's say that I want to know the percentage of silver car that I have. What I can do is right click on here and I'll do show values as, and I have all these different options in this list. So I want to know this silver, which we have 6, what percentage is that of the total? So once again, I'm going to go back to show values as. I'm going to say percentage of column total. And so now what I could see is my silver cars make up 24% of my total inventory. My black cars make up 24% again of my total inventory, and so on and so forth. So there I could show the values as percentages. Now it would be nicer to be able to see a graphical visualization of this data. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on Pivot Table Analyze again, then Pivot Charts. I'm going to go ahead and insert a pivot chart. I can choose from many different chart options here, but I'm going to go with columns. And here you see is the column chart of my car inventory. So here I could see, we know that we have 6 silver, 6 black, 6 red, and then I could see the rest of it. So this is just a visual way of my table. And the interesting thing is I could drop in different values into my pivot table. I'm going to drop make to my rows field, and then the chart will just automatically update based on what fields I drop into my pivot table. So it's a very nice and easy way to pull together a visual view of your data. One other thing that I want to call out is you have this option here, defer layout update. What does that mean? Well, with a defer layout update, as I pull item in and out, you will see that it doesn't update my table and it doesn't update the chart until I click on this update button here. So here if I pull the color out and then click update button, now it will update only after when I have clicked this button. And the question is, why would you ever use this? Well, especially when you are working with a large set of data. So let's say that you are working with 1 million or 2 million rows of data, even like 10,000 rows of data. Every time you drag and drop something into this pivot table, it's going to take your computer time to process because it's going to do a lot of calculation based on how you set up your pivot table. And so this way you can make sure that you have your setup good before you make that update. So it just helps speed up your process of editing. Anyway, I hope this tutorial is helpful using pivot tables. Hopefully this helps you creating your own pivot tables from scratch. If you enjoy this content, please give us a thumbs up. That always helps reaffirm that the content that I'm creating is valuable. And if you want to see further content like this, please hit the subscribe button. And that way you will get a notification anytime new content like this comes out. That's all I have. Thanks for tuning in and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.